All right. Hello, everybody. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am beyond excited I can't even express how excited I am today to be chatting with legendary Cannibal Corpse drummer, Paul Mazurkiewicz. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. It'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Great. And I know you've got a lot going on right now. Maybe let's talk about kind of start off with kind of what's happening currently with you. I know you've got a new band that you're in and some really exciting news with that. So I'll let you talk about that. And
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it sounds it's pretty exciting for me. Of course, something a little bit different than I normally am used to doing here. In a band called Umbilicus, and it's pretty much like a 70s style rock and roll kind of a thing here. Just grooving out and having fun, and playing some rock and roll kind of tunes. But yeah, it's been a couple years in the making, and we're finally getting everything ready for release. I'm sure you might be aware. I don't know how anyone else is aware, but we just released a new video for a song just 2 days ago.
Yeah,
for a song called "Inhuman." So that's our second single that we put out for this project, and the pre-orders went up for that, and the album's going to come out at the end of September 30th, I believe it is. And we're really looking forward to that. I'm very excited. It's just something I've had a passion for many years. Is just old school kind of rock music, from the late 60s, early 70s into the 80s kind of a thing. But just that good old rock and roll. It's been inside me, and it's been a passion for me for a long time. And it's fun to do something like this, to do something different, and to see what happens. I mean, if anything, we're having a great time, and we felt we wrote some good songs, and we'll see what everybody thinks. So far, the reaction's been pretty positive, which is cool. But not expecting too much out of this. Of course, it is a side project, and if good things happen, great, and if not, like I said, we're having fun. So that's the important thing. But but check it out, Umbilicus. We just released "I Human," the video, just 2 days ago, and there's another song, "Hello Future." I believe we're going to do the next another song maybe next month. I'm still kind of figuring that process out, but definitely the album is going to come out September 30th on Listenable Insanity Records, and go check it out, get a pre-order. And I think it's Umbilicus. I think we're on Bandcamp. That's where you got to do that. So Umbilicus at bandcamp.com. But man, yeah, so much fun. We're really looking forward to it, having a great time doing this.
Nice. Yeah, it's the two tracks you mentioned, the "I Human" and "Hello Future" are I've listened to them more than once. Great stuff. Really, what I loved about it, as you mentioned, it's a very early 70s vibe. It's kind of a Deep Purple, Captain Beyond, Grand Funk kind of vibe to it, which I immediately just honed in on that. I'm like, this is fantastic. It's and you've got a killer band that you're playing with too. Taylor, man, what an amazing guitar player that guy is.
Oh, incredible, man. What a talent, man. He can just do everything.
Yeah.
Incredible. We got lucky getting Taylor, because little backstory for the band. About 20 years ago, the bass player who's in Umbilicus, Vernon Blake, he's a really good friend of mine, friend of Cannibal Corpse for 30 years or so at this point. And he's one of my best friends. But we did a project, about 20 years ago now. It was around 99, 2000, 2001 or so. It was Jack Owen and I doing a rock project with Vernon Blake here. And we called it Path of Man. And we did some demoing. We wrote some originals. We wrote, maybe about 15 songs, but we actually did play live in Tampa. Nothing ever became of the band, of course, and nothing became of, we never got that far with the music. We didn't make a proper recording. We made some good demos per se. And we did play live twice, but we had an issue. We went through a bunch of singers. And ironically enough, it's funny looking back how that one happened. The two shows we played, James Rivera from Hellstar, Hellstar fame, the singer, he was living in Tampa. He actually sang for us on these two shows.
Oh, wow.
And he's a great vocalist. What a great guy. What an amazing vocalist. And he's got such a great range and a great metal voice. But I guess, we look back and go, and, we didn't really want like a metal guy. I mean, like I said, nothing against him at all. He's an amazing singer. I mean, incredible. If we were going to write like, have him in a metal band, but we were trying to go for that more like 70s vibe then. So the band basically fell apart, but so it's kind of like been 20 years in the making. We joke about it with Taylor and Vern, because here we are revisiting. Jack, of course, isn't a part of it, but when I kind of got the ball rolling again, right after we recorded Violence Unimagined with Cannibal Corpse, because we knew we were going to have some time off. And we weren't going to be touring for any foreseeable future here, so it was kind of like, well, man, I want to do something here. I don't want to just sit around. So I got a hold of Vern and said, hey, you want to get the band, get back going again? Let's revisit some of those old songs we wrote. Let's learn them. At least him and I can jam. Jack no longer lives in Florida here in Tampa. He moved out to Illinois. So we were like, well, if we're going to really take this serious and want to do it again here, we may have to just get a new guitar player. And that's what we did. And Taylor kind of fell into our laps. I never met Taylor before. Vern did. They worked together at like a staging company for a little bit, and we had some mutual friends that knew Taylor and said, man, Taylor, you should give him a try, give him a call. He might be interested and, see how it works out, and we're like, yeah, of course. So I remember Taylor came into the first practice with, him and I and Vern, and he learned one of the old songs that we were playing with Path of Man. And man, we just gelled right off the bat. And Taylor was so excited for, having to be involved in a project like this, because it's right up his alley. He's such an eclectic, just diverse kind of musical talent and taste guy that, he was like, man, I love this stuff, man. I'm in, so basically that's how it started, so it like I said, it was 20 years in the making, and we're glad that, Taylor's in the band, because he's the primary songwriter. He wrote, these 10 songs for the most part. And then we brought in Brian Stevenson, the singer, because Taylor knew him. But man, he was the icing on the cake, and we're just very excited. But man, what a talent pool we got going. Both those guys, Taylor and Brian, just amazing dudes and amazing talent. And I feel very fortunate to have these guys in the band with me and Vern, because it's just, it took it to a whole nother level that we do feel a lot more excited than we did 20 years ago when we had the original Path of Man going. So
yeah, I can't wait to hear the full album.
Cool, man.
As I mentioned, those first two songs that those first two singles you guys have released are fantastic. And
I appreciate it, man. No, really, I think you're gonna dig it. I mean, we really, it's you hate to toot your own horn kind of a thing, but when we wrote these songs, and then when we hear them back, you're just like, man, these are good songs, man. I think people are gonna dig them. I mean, they're gonna be a little surprised, and so far so good. So the people like yourselves that have heard it, that are fans of rock music or whatever, they're like, wow, this is something here. So I think the 10 songs are pretty diverse in themselves as well. I mean, you can tell that from Hello Future to I Human, how different they are, and the other 8 songs are equally as just, they're all different, which is good. They got their own identity. So you're gonna probably pick out different kind of influences per song. Wow, that might sound like this band or remind you of that band or whatever. And I think that makes for a great album, and a great diverse album. So we're excited. So I can't wait for you to hear it.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's on Bandcamp, and they'll for the listeners, there'll be a description in the description below. There's a link to the Bandcamp, so definitely check that out.
Yes.
Be sorry, it's really cool stuff, especially if you're like me and you dig early 70s rock and roll and hard rock, and it's really good stuff. And speaking of Taylor, kind of subsequently, you actually wrote some lyrics, I believe, right, for Inhuman Condition, his other band with Jeremy Kling and Terry Butler, which is cool.
Yeah, totally cool. I mean, once we started rolling with the, getting to know Taylor, and he's a good friend, of course, now, and we've known Jeremy for a long time. Didn't really hang out with him too much all albeit he's been in Tampa for a long time. I remember we toured with him in the absence years ago with Cannibal Corpse, and great guy as well. And when we started doing the Umbilicus, and then they were obviously in the process of re-recording, the Inhuman Condition. They asked me if I wanted to, to write some lyrics, and I felt flattered and honored, because it was cool. Obviously, similar lines to Cannibal, but man, just writing for different music,
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was very, like I said, flattered, very honored that they asked me, and I was totally pumped and gung ho to do it, because I looked at it as some, a challenge, and something different, something, why not? I mean, I guess my adage these days are, you only live once, and we're not getting any younger,
Yeah, exactly.
So why not, do what you can while you can, if the opportunity arises. So that was great that they, that they asked me, and I think the songs turned out cool, and they were happy. That was the most important thing. I want to make those guys happy, and I think the songs turned out really good, and the whole album, man, the first one, and now their new one, Fear Sick, that's coming out. I mean, there's, great albums. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Cool. And you wrote lyrics on Rat God and on Fear Sick, correct?
Right. What ended up happening is when they did Rat God, they had, I think it was like 14 songs were recorded, and of course they didn't release all 14. I think it's either 9 or 10 that's on Rat God.
Yeah.
Right. So what I did is I just wrote 2 songs. They did want me to write a third, but I was just time was of the essence, and I unfortunately wasn't able to squeeze the third one in. So I wrote the 2 songs, and then they decided, of course, to leave 4 of those songs off of the record, to do what they just did, and write a few more, and then release the other 4, and that's Fear Sick. So yeah, I get 1 on each album basically right now, albeit I only had the 1 writing session back when I wrote, both of those songs. 2 years ago now, 1.5 years. But yeah, so I'll be on both. That's nice. Pretty cool.
Do you write a lot of lyrics?
For Cannibal, I do. If you look at all the liner notes and you read and you look back, and when we started taking over the lyrical duties back when we made our vocalist change, it was like a band effort, and it pretty much has been since. So I've written my share of lyrics over the years, and it seemed like in the last few albums, other than Violence Unimagined, I only ended up writing 2 songs. But, if you look back at Red Before Black, Skeletal Domain, I mean, I ended up writing like half the record on both of those records. And, and then every album before that, I'm getting a good 3, 4 songs in there. So I've written my share of lyrics, which is a pretty cool thing to be able to, be a part of that.
Very cool. Very cool. No, and you mentioned Violence Unimagined. Got that right here.
Nice.
Which came out last year. And I have to say, I mean, I love Cannibal Corpse from day one, but this album, it kind of took me by surprise a little bit. It's got so much energy and so powerful. I remember, I think it was the day it was released, my friend Tyson emailed me and he's like, "Have you heard the new Cannibal Corpse album?" I'm like, "Not yet. I've got it pre-ordered." He's like, "Holy shit. Like, wait until you hear this. It's going to blow your mind." And it really did. It's a fantastic, and it's funny because I think, especially we older rockers, we always say that, like, "Oh, the new album, it's better than their old stuff." But I mean, those first few albums are classics, of course, but sure. I think just in terms of musicianship and just the power, this is insanely, it's an incredible album from start to finish. It's one of those albums that one, it doesn't leave the tray very often, and it also is on repeat often. It's one of those where the album finishes and I got to listen to that again.
Right. Awesome. Well, man, that's great to hear. It really is.
Yeah, very. And last year was a big year, not just for that, for Cannibal Corpse, but also you released a box set of the first 3 albums. And speaking of the first 3 albums, so if I'm not mistaken, in September, I believe, is the 30th anniversary of Tomb, which is mind-blowing that I'm that old. The 3rd album is 30 years old. Like, holy shit. Wow.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, just blink of an eye. Yeah.
I know. Amazing that we're still around doing this, and relevant. And that comes back to what you were saying about Violence Unimagined. To be 33 years into our career and arguably writing our best stuff is pretty remarkable, I think. I mean, I'm glad you feel that way about the album, what you just said about it and everything. And, exactly, as an artist, you're always going to be going, oh, this is our best stuff. And, you're trying to always do that, but we really, really are, and we do feel that we're writing our best stuff that we, then more than ever in the latter years of our career here, I mean, it's pretty insane to me, like you would think, you come out with an album, man, how are we going to do better than that? Or we just do it, it just happens. And, we just stick to our guns. And, I think we're like aging like fine wine, I guess, so to say. We just keep on refining the sound and keep trying to be fresh, albeit it's Cannibal Corpse and it's death metal and all that. But I think we're finding those ways to make a better record, and have that energy, like you said, so that's good to hear that what you mentioned about the record. And, and we feel that, we got to keep on pushing and keep on doing our best because, like, comes back to the old adage, you only live once, and we're not getting any younger.
Yeah, exactly.
So probably say that 5 more times.
No, that's great. No, words to live by for sure.
Yes, right.
Well, and I think it's and definitely nothing against anybody past members at all, but I think the band right now is just so tight. It just sounds so good. It's just such a solid group of musicians.
Right.
And again, the band has always had amazing musicians from day one, but just I don't know, like I said, this album really grabbed me.
Awesome.
I was really, really excited by it. And one thing I think is cool, you mentioned the 30-year, you guys have been around for 30 plus years. Well, what, 33, 34?
Yeah.
Like 88, I think is when you guys.
December of 88. So I guess it'll be going on 34 years at the end of the year, I believe. I mean, it's hard to remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard to keep track these days.
And you and Alex have, been that core part of that the entire time. You've been the core piece of the band. But interestingly enough, I think it's what I think is also cool is there's kind of this other member in a way, Vince Locke, has done the artwork for 30 years, which is really rare. I think you look at, somebody like Derek Riggs did work for Iron Maiden for quite a long time, but not that long. I mean, maybe, Roger Dean of Yes, I don't know, but you don't have artists that are part of obviously he's not part of the sound, but he's part of the whole look of Cannibal Corpse and kind of what it is.
Totally
cool.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. No, we're so glad to have him, really. Like you said, it's just he's a vital part of the band in a visual way, in obviously not in the music, but I mean, for how we're portrayed. I mean, to have him from the very beginning is just incredible, really. I mean, it's that what an amazing consistency we have in that, because yes, the fans want to see Vince's art, they're expecting Vince's art, because he's been a part of it since the beginning. So yeah, no, we're thrilled. I mean, he's done amazing work, of course, every album, they're all gonna be different, and all that. And, you can sit and rank which ones are the better ones or what have you. But I mean, either way, it doesn't matter. I mean, just to have him a part of the team and, have his visual, aid for us. I mean, it's just incredible. So, yeah, man, can't thank him enough for being a part of it and still wanting to do this, right?
Because, that's great.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and that kind of begs the question of, going back when you first, I don't know how you first came into contact with Vince and how that all started, but were you kind of on the same page immediately? Did you like, here's what we want, kind of what is that process? Does he come up with ideas? Do you guys come like, here are the songs, here's the title, here's what we're thinking, or kind of what's that process?
Yeah, it'll vary, and it has over the years. I mean, in the very beginning, I remember, when he was doing Dead World Comics, that was, how he got his name on the map, I guess, and what he was doing at the time in the late 80s, early 90s. Dead World was a fairly popular comic, I guess, in the whole scene, in the underground comic scene. And I remember what I remember of back then was about, okay, we're going to make a record, now we can make decisions that we never had to make before, like where we're going to record and who we're going to record with. And right, somebody can draw our art or whatever. We were suggested that maybe we should look into Vincent Locke, through various friends that, knew of his work and, just knew we were going to be, Cannibal Corpse. It just fit, the style of what we do and all that. So I remember Barnes took care of a lot of that back in the early days, but I think it was as easy as all he did was call information, and hey, can I get Vince Locke's phone number? And yeah, sure. He was listed, luckily, when you did it the old school way.
Yeah.
So, and that was it. I think Barnes called him up and said, hey, we're a band from Buffalo and we're going to make a record and we're called Cannibal Corpse. Would you like to draw our album cover? And he was like, sure, and that was it. That was as simple as that, but then the creative process, in the very early days, I wasn't involved as much. Barnes took care of a lot of the first 4 albums that he was in. Sorry, I got my dogs and cats going crazy back here, trying to keep some sort of order. So, hey, quiet. Sorry.
No, you're good.
He was the one taking care of, talking to Vince and dealing with that, and I can't recall back in the early days if it was just straight up Vince or Barnes, like, you have an idea, I just remember seeing like Eating Back to Life for the first time, like, here's Eating Back to Life, like, wow, this is incredible. And we all loved it, of course, same thing with Butchered at Birth. Hey, here's our new album cover, Butchered at Birth. This is amazing. We just didn't have that much of a thought process. The rest of us, we were just, we were playing, we were just thinking of music, we're thinking of jamming, writing songs and stuff, so it was kind of leave it up to Barnes to do a lot of that thing. Then of course, when we kicked him out, when we kicked Barnes out of the band, then it was up to, all of us took over kind of like all the responsibilities that were being done, that needed to be done. So like I was talking about earlier, the lyric writing and all that kind of thing, everybody was taking their part. So I was then the guy talking to Vince, the liaison, basically, dealing with Vince after that fact. So that would have been, of course, the start of, Vile would have been, the album that I started doing that kind of a thing. So I remember us having more, at that point, definitely having more say in what we wanted to do, as like, say, for instance, Vile. I remember, okay, we're going to call it Vile. And we had some ideas, and we relayed those to Vince, and Vince, of course, did what we wanted to do. And, and then we, hey, if there was any changes to be made, he would make those changes. He had no problem, doing that. He wanted to please the band, but we wanted to let him, of course, have his own artistic, freedom as well. So we obviously just had to work hand in hand. So ever since then, it just really kind of depends on the record. Gallery of Suicide comes out. Okay, I remember coming up with, we're going to call the album Gallery of Suicide. Well, I had an idea of what I kind of thought it should look like. So I gave Vince those thoughts and he basically did that. And then I remember an album like Bloodthirst, I believe, might have been the first one, maybe even a little bit of Gore Obsessed, but I remember those albums, Bloodthirst, like, okay, we're calling it Bloodthirst. We have no idea, like, really, no, what do you got, Vince, and then he would come back what he thought, maybe we send him the lyrics. Of course you send him the title, and then, hey, he knows what we're looking for. So do what you do, Yeah. So that's basically how it's done these days. If one of us have, a little bit of a creative pathway, then we'll tell them what to do, or we'll give them those ideas. And if we don't, we just kind of, we give them the title and we let them go for it, so it just varies these days. But man, it's great to have that interaction with him, to that we know he's going to want to, he'll do it, like I said, we'll let him do what he wants to do, but at the same time, we want to be happy as a band. And if there's needs to be tweaks or changes, then we'll ask, and he's got no problem doing that. So, but that's how we work with him, and it's been working, so that's great.
Yeah, that's cool. And it brings up an interesting question, I think, in terms of, and I hate to use it, but the shock factor, the visual shock factor of the album, especially those early album covers. I mean, I remember, I was in college when those first albums came out, and I remember the first time seeing it, I'm just like, holy shit, what is that? Like, I have to hear this. Like, this is shocking. Was there any trepidation with releasing some of the album, like where you're like, oh my God, we're gonna get in trouble, which you did, and not necessarily in trouble, but banned in certain countries, and
right.
really just because of the album covers, maybe lyrically too, and I think people just didn't get it.
Of course. Yeah, right. Of course. No, I mean, we wanted to, we're Cannibal Corpse, and we wanted to take it to a next level. I mean, we're products, of course, of the 80s and the thrash scene and all that, and fans of Metallica and Slayer and Creator and all those bands that were pushing the envelope at that point, right?
Yeah.
So when we were able to do it, and death metal is starting to come into its own and start, this new genre that's, and it's getting more intense, right? And all that. And hey, we're Cannibal Corpse. We want to, and we're still fans of music, not that we're never not, but when you're still just going, what, as a fan of music, I want to exactly do what you said, walk into a record store, because that's what you were doing back then. Yeah. And you walk in and you go, wow, look at this album cover, read these titles. This is like, it makes you want to buy it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we bought so many of our albums back in the day. When you're looking at Pleasure, Endless Pain. I remember Creator, Endless Pain. Who's this band? Yeah. Creator. Wow, look at that. And you hear this, I mean, so many bands you bought because of the album cover, and 90% of the time they were awesome, and this is great. So to us, it went hand in hand with what we're doing here. And we wanted to push that envelope though, and make it more extreme. And that's why, of course, we got Butchered at Birth and Tomb of the Mutilated and those covers, because why not? We're Cannibal Corpse and we don't care. It shouldn't matter exactly. It's just art. And unfortunately, the people that don't get it are going to be the people that are complaining about it and maybe causing the issues with censorship and all that kind of thing. But I guess as a creative, we're not thinking of we're not the record label. Obviously, that's why you get the censored versions. When you're giving them to the record label, the uncensored version, and they look at this and go, man, we can't get this into a store, or this isn't going to be able to go here. And they want to sell records. And then, at the time, you kind of, you do too, but you don't care because it's your vision and it's your band,
Yeah.
I think as time went on, we realized that as, we became more business oriented, and, we're not young anymore. And, we're privy to the whole situation. It's like, well, yeah, if we know if we're going to have something brutal that it's going to cause problems, and we're probably going to need a censored version here or something of that nature. Back then, you didn't even think of it. We didn't want, here's the album cover. It's Butchered at Birth. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
Should be no alternate cover for that. That's, that's now I got my cat knocking over my phone. Got animal problems everywhere. So we as a band, we never thought of that. It ended up, it was always going to be the record label, their fear of, hey, well, if we're not going to be able to sell it here or get it there, then we really need to do that. So, so as a band, no, even with Violence Unimagined, I remember when we wanted Vince to do Violence Unimagined and we saw it, we were just like, man, this is amazing. And you know what? For some reason, I don't think any of us were thinking that it's going to get banned or it's going to have problems,
Right.
That's maybe the record label is going to say something, and it was because I remember it was kind of funny when we just had the one piece, and then it was like, man, this is just insane. This is brutal. Look how killer this is. Right. And then you give it to the record label, the management, and they're like, we're going to have an issue here. And I was like, oh man, really? I mean, come on, what year are we in here, and all this, and, okay, whatever, though we should have probably thought right off the bat, yeah, this is probably going to cause some issue and we're going to need a censored version. So I remember Vince only did the one piece, and then we had to go back to him and say, hey, of course we got an issue here, and we're going to use it, of course, but we need to have a more tame version too. So
right.
So we should have just started right off the bat, say, hey, if we're going to go brutal, then we should know we're going to need a censored version, but we didn't even think of it. So that's what you do as an artist. You just want to you just want to portray what you want, and and you kind of well, we forgot about that. So
well, and at least, fortunately, I think, Metal Blade, in those early days, Slagle was willing, he was a visionary, and he was willing to, like,
Yeah.
this
Right.
this should be the album cover, so let's do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
That changed the game.
Yeah, no, that's another thing, being on Metal Blade for our whole career. It's another, being able to have our creative freedom with them and never being, told what to do or what we should do. And, and then Brian exactly having that, the way he is as a person, in that sense of like, yeah, man, give the bands the creative freedom. Let's go for this. He wasn't scared of it, but he just, of course, knew, when it got a little bit bigger that, right, well, we're going to have to put the butchered paper over Butchered at Birth, or, and then Tomb of the Mutilated. Okay, we need the censored version. That's just, we're not going to be able to get it into, the main record stores at the time and all that. And, so, I mean, I think that, right, if it was up to him, of course, he'd be like, yeah, man, this cover's great. And, we're not going to do anything else. But as the record label, they, probably felt that we had no choice, so, but yeah, I mean, that was awesome. That really awesome that Brian even just gave us a chance. I remember, how he always talked about when he signed us was, man, send him the demo, and he goes, man, with a song like A Skull Full of Maggots, how can you not love this band?
Yeah.
and that just hit him, and that stuck with him, and he, thought it was great. So that's amazing,
Yeah, I think that was what was one of the big draws for me too, was the song titles and those kind of lyrics, and being a big horror fan.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is great. This is
Right.
this is exactly what I wanted. So, it's like, yeah, like you guys and Carcass and bands like that, like just honing in on that horror element was such a cool thing. And bands had done that in the past, but not to that degree, not to that intensity, which was great. So I wanted to go back in time a ways, and I was really curious about your start in music. Did you come from a musical family? How did you get into drumming?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really come from too much of a musical family. A little bit, like my mom and my dad, they liked music. My dad liked music, and I got into music probably by listening to his 45s and albums that he had around, and but it wasn't like he was a huge music guy like I would be, or or anything like that. But he liked music, and he had his albums floating around, and I was able to play them. But I guess another thing, though, that somewhat of a musical family in a sense, where you look, my uncle, which was my aunt's, my father's sister's husband, so he was married into the family, and still alive, and and everyone else has since been gone, which is unfortunate. But he was a polka drummer. He played drums in a polka band. And I remember watching him when I was young, when he would play in his garage with his polka band for my cousin's birthday parties and things like that. And just seeing live drums when you're young and up close, I mean, it kind of resonates a little bit more so, when you can be like literally right on top of it,
Yeah.
So I remember, seeing that and was intrigued by it. And I was always intrigued by the drums, I guess, just more going on than maybe any other instrument, with what's happening, I guess, because, a lot of movement and and all this. And then my cousin, I have a sister, younger sister. So my cousin, who's 2 years older than me, which was on my mom's side, my mom's sister's son, and he was like a brother to me, being 2 years older, and we hung out a lot. And he kind of got me into a lot of once I got a little older, and I'm into starting to find my own path and not just listen to my dad's records anymore. He's, hey, check this band out, check Rush out, check Van Halen out, all that kind of stuff. And he got me into moving forward with music that he knew of, because of said being 2 years older. But he started playing drums. So he started playing drums, and then I would go to his house, and he had his drum set up, and I'd go to his house. He had it in his bedroom, and he had a big old 80s style drum kit with all the toms and double bass and all that. And and I was like, wow, I would be able to just maybe just sitting behind it, not necessarily playing it, because we couldn't really do too much. I mean, I think I wasn't there all the time, but I just remember sitting behind, or I'll never forget sitting behind his drum kit in his room. And I was probably, and I'm a latecomer to the whole playing drums per se. You know, I didn't get my first kit till I was like 16. So I guess it was probably maybe it was probably 15 or so when I sat behind his kit and just kind of messed around a little bit. In the sense of just, you know, doing like a just a 4/4 beat, you know, that I was able just to, but to do it by myself, you know, not, you know, and to be able to have a little bit of a rhythm naturally, I guess, you know. I mean, so I looked at, I was like, man, I can do this, you know. I mean, you know, some people might get behind a kit and just be like, you know, like whatever, they can't do anything, you know. But I was able just to at least, you know, do that. And I got excited for that. And I'm like, you know what, this would be fun. I think I could do this. I want to do this, you know. And, you know, that kind of was the start of it there. And got my own kid. And then, you know, here we are. The rest is, you know, started playing and you know, forming bands. And here we are. But so I somewhat came from a little bit of that background. I mean, having the two drummers in the family of sorts, you know, that I was able to kind of like study off of, or sort of just be around it a little bit to absorb maybe, you know, a little more subconsciously, you know, which was cool. But that's probably, you know, why I really gravitated to the drums overall.
Nice. That's cool. And then, so your first band, or maybe it wasn't your first band, but I know Tyrant Sin, first thrash, that was the thrash metal band you were in.
Yeah.
Along with, I know one of, oh my God, my brain is not working. I know you were another member of the original Cannibal Corpse was in that band as well, correct?
Yeah. Bob Rousset was in there.
Oh, Bob.
And then Barnes was in the latter version of Tyrant Sin.
Oh, okay.
Tyrant Sin made 3 demo tapes, and Barnes was on the last demo tape. So he came into the fold right at the very end before the band folded. And but Rousset was always there from the beginning. You know, okay. He was, you know, started with him. Yeah.
And then I know Alex and Jack were in a different thrash metal band, and when both bands kind of fell apart or, you know, broke up or whatever, you guys somehow all got together and merged. That's cool. Yeah. And that was in Buffalo, correct? In Buffalo, New York?
We're all from the Western New York. They were from a little town called Akron, New York. Jack and Alex, so it's a little bit more in the sticks kind of a thing. I mean, we lived in the suburbs where Barnes and Rousset and all, you know, but Alex and Jack weren't even considered the suburbs. They were more like the country. You know, they were a good 45 minutes away from Buffalo. But yeah, both bands. Beyond Death was their band. Okay. And, you know, Tyrant Sin, when we're starting to play the Buffalo scene, of course, you know, that's how we met those guys. And, you know, you're playing with other bands, you're meeting different musicians, all these kinds of things. You're playing shows together. And, you know, we played many a show with Beyond Death and, you know, hung out with them a lot, parties and all that kind of thing. So when both bands, I remember our bass player quit and they wanted to, you know, move on from their drummer. So that's basically what happened, because we were looking for a bass player for a few months. Tyrant Sin was. And then when Jack and Alex, they were started out as a 3-piece, but they were a 4-piece after a little while. But they wanted to move on from their drummer, so they looked at it as like, well, we need a drummer, you know. So I remember they called. I can't remember who they called. If they called Barnes or Rousset, or it was maybe Alex, called and said, "Hey, man, we know you guys are looking for a bass player, and you know, maybe you know, we could use a drummer. Maybe you want to try to jam together a little bit, you know." And at that time, it was me and Rousset and Barnes, and we had another guitar player, but he was still a new guy in the band as well. So it wasn't like a core member like Rousset was, or like myself was. And then since Barnes sang, you know, and Jack was a guitar player, it just made sense to go, okay, well, let's try to get you two together with us 3, I guess, and we'll see what happens. And that's how Cannibal was formed. So, yeah.
Was there a, and maybe this is a stupid question, but was there a conscious effort, or, you know, like, because you were thrash metal musicians, you were a thrash band. Do you remember a point where you decided, was there a decision point where like, let's be a death metal band? Like what was that evolution?
I think it just evolved naturally because of the whole timing of everything, right? When you listen to the demo, it's still very thrashy because of Barnes's vocals. You know, he's not singing death metal style at that point. I mean, listen to the early Tyrant Sin. It's pretty thrashy overall. There's some hints of maybe death metal coming, depending on some riffs and all that. And then Beyond Death were more of like, they weren't even, they were more like SOD thrash. They weren't like, we were more like, Tyrant Sin was more like Creator Slayer thrash. And Beyond Death were kind of more like SOD, MOD, punky kind of like metal like that, but I know Jack and Alex were really starting to get into the more of the heavier stuff, and they wanted to be a little more darker. And and we were all fans of like, the crossover stuff too, like DRI and The Accused and COC and all that. So that's why a lot of Tyrant Sin had a lot of that going on, because we love that kind of stuff too. So, I think when they came in, they just wanted to, we all started to try to make it a little bit more progressive. I mean, I look at the progression of Tyrant Sin, like the last demo compared to the first couple, the first two actually, you see the evolution of Tyrant Sin. It's the last one does sound like, okay, you can almost hear the precursor to Cannibal coming, because obviously I'm drumming and Rusey, is playing guitar, and he, wrote a lot of the riffs, and, and it was only a year, year and a half before Cannibals formed, that we did our last Tyrant Sin demo. So the times were changing, you know how it is back then. And every moment, every minute was different because of the whole scope of the way music was evolving at that point, right? So exactly, when we do our demo in 88 or 89, I should say, early 89, still death metal is still relatively, you got Obituary, you got Death. And then I remember us hearing Morbid Angel through the, like Altars was out, and we we're going, wow, that took it to a whole nother level of like, man, this is insane. And that kind of pushed us to maybe even play, to take it even heavier and to take it to more of those, in that way. So yeah, it was such a fine line from Barnes doing the demo and then the album a few months later where he's singing death metal as opposed to how he was singing, thrashy on that. So I don't think it was really a conscious effort. It was just more of a natural evolution that we all wanted to push it and just get heavier. It was just in our makeup, in our blood, in our psyche to want to just keep pushing and get heavier, so to say, and get faster and get more intense, because that's what we were hearing as we were going, like I said, hearing like say Morbid Angel and all that just it really influenced us and pushed us to take it to that kind of that extremity. So I think it wasn't conscious. It was just it was just a natural thing that was bound to happen, I guess.
Interesting. So the as far as moving from New York to Florida, was that the record company? Because I know you guys worked with Morris Sound. I'm assuming that it was the record company, like, hey, you need to go work with this producer. Is that kind of what happened? And then you decided to stay there because of what the scene was at that time?
Yeah, it was, getting back to what we talked about earlier. You're a band now, and you're like, wow, you didn't realize you can have these liberties of, we can. Oh, we don't have to record down the road like we did where our demos, and we can actually choose a studio. We have a little bit of a budget to be able to choose a producer, choose a studio, right, pay somebody to do artwork and all that. So at the time, it was all, it's all up to the band, really. I think that was a thing, how you were saying about how Brian is. It wasn't like he's, okay, here, you guys got to work with this guy. You got to do this. No, you're your own band. You got to make your decisions here, and do what you're going to do. And, I remember we heard, especially, Sepultura Beneath the Remains. When we heard that, knowing Scott Burns, I know it wasn't recorded. I don't believe it was recorded in Morris Sound, but I know I think he might have went to Brazil and mixed it, or he did something more with it. But just hearing the final production and knowing Scott Burns was produced by Scott Burns, we were blown away by that production. And it was just like, and it was a huge album for us, and Sepultura were a big influence for the band. And we were like, man, we want to work with Scott Burns. We want to go to Morrison. And I think at that point he might have done Obituary might have been out, a couple other things. And of course Morbid were out, but they worked with Tom Morris. They didn't work with Scott Burns, And I think he did the Terrorizer though. Scott did the Terrorizer album.
I think you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, Morrison. So I believe he did that. So he was starting to kind of shine a little bit in the underground, like in that sense of like, okay, so no, it was us. We were like, man, we want to go work with Scott Burns. Okay, we can go somewhere. We want to go to Tampa and record with Scott Burns. And we did. We packed up the vans. I think I drove my truck. We packed up Jack's van and we, brought our gear down. We were there for 10 days or whatever. I mean, I think that's all the budget we had to record for like 10 days. But it was amazing. What a great experience, of course. Guys from Buffalo, still basically kids, that really haven't gone too much, too far. I was down in Florida twice for family vacations and things. And here you are as a band and you're going down to record your record and, you're not with your parents and you're just, able to do whatever you want. We're all in our, 20s and stuff now. And it's just like having fun. And I mean, it was an incredible experience, being down in Florida and doing that work with Scott. So of course, subsequently, we wanted to work with him every time, and we did. We every album, obviously up until the Bleeding, we commuted down and we worked with Scott Burns and Morrison. Excuse me. The whole thing was where the budgets are getting more, so we're able to spend more time. From 10 days to 2 weeks, then we're there for 3 weeks. Oh, the Bleeding, wow, we can stay down there a month, and record. So Tampa ended up being kind of like a second home to us in a lot of ways. We just started knowing more people. We're spending more time down there. Of course, the more every time we come down, we're loving the city, we're loving the the weather, we're loving it and all that. So I guess at that point, after we did the Bleeding, was 94. And we were like, you know what, we could live anywhere now. We're an international band. We're not just playing Buffalo scene like we did when we started, of course, opening for bands and just playing in the Northeast. No, we're going on tours. We're going to Europe, or, this is becoming our careers now, and, we could live anywhere, so we were like, you know what, let's move to Florida. I mean, Buffalo, the weather's starting to get on us and all that. And, I think we all just maybe wanted to change, but, and then Morrison's down there too, so if we thought, I think at that point in your life, you're thinking, oh, we're going to record at Morrison the rest of our lives, and, that naive kids that, you're not even thinking that, well, maybe that might not be the case, but at the time we're thinking that's going to be what we want to do. And we, like I said, we just love Florida. We just love the weather. And, especially right when we'd leave Buffalo in the middle of winter,
Yeah.
And then you go to Florida and you're going, my God, we could be in this. Instead, we're stuck in, 5 feet of snow and you can't leave your apartment because they won't let you. Otherwise you get arrested because it's, sub-zero temperatures. So we were like, let's go. It had to be a band effort. We decided to make the move, but the thing was, it had to be a band effort. We're that kind of a band. It wasn't going to be like, well, all right, 3 of us are going. Oh, you don't want to go? Okay, well, too bad. It was like, man, all 5 of us got to be on board. Otherwise, we felt it wasn't going to work, because we played all the time. That's all we did. We jammed. We wrote. We the little bit of touring that was happening at the time, but it's getting to be more and more. So we were always all together, and that's what we felt a band should be. A unit like that. Yeah. So luckily, everybody decided to go, and I remember it was like 10 of us moved down. A few friends and a couple girlfriends moved down and all that. But 94, we made the move, and been here ever since. So, but yeah, those were the reasons,
Nice.
So,
well, and that was fortuitous too. I think, with the release of Barnes from the band, and then, George Corpse Grinder, of course, was in Tampa. He lived there. He was in Monstrosity, and I don't know how that played out, but I mean, man, what a perfect union right there.
Oh, totally. Well, that's why we made the move. But, a little more knowledge on that, though. Well, Monstrosity, of course, were based in Florida, but George wasn't living in Florida at the time.
Oh, he wasn't?
Because Monstrosity, he was still up in Baltimore, because that's where he's from. So he would commute down when Monstrosity needed to do anything, and they only did at that point like minimal touring too. I think they did a few tours, but George would come on down when he needed to, but he wasn't living there at the time. So when we got George in the band, then then he knew he was stepping into, something that's maybe a little bit more, a little bit bigger than what Monstrosity is at the time, and that we're gonna be touring more and all this kind of thing. So he felt that, right, he would probably need to be living down in Florida like the rest of us, of course, at this time. So that's what happened when he got into the band, and he decided to move to Florida full time.
Oh, okay, interesting. I didn't realize that. That's
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to keep you all night. I do have one last thing
Sure.
I want to ask you about.
No problem.
So, as you may know, my page is Brews and Tunes. I pair craft beer with metal albums.
Awesome.
And I know there's a history with craft beer with Cannibal Corpse as well, which, Three Floyds and Angry Chair. I was curious about how that started. Did those breweries approach the band, or did the band approach those breweries?
Well, when we did the first collab with Three Floyds, that was, geez, that's been a few years now, I guess.
Like 7 years or so.
Something like that. I know, it's crazy to think it's been that long. I wouldn't even have said that long. But it's been a while. I think it was just our little bit of a little bit of both. I mean, we're not the first collab that Three Floyds did, so we knew that they were collaborating with bands and everything, and it was kind of like, man, we should do that. That'd be great. Why wouldn't they want to work with us? I mean, no one ever kind of came to us or anything, but we had a few mutual friends that that got us in contact, like, oh man, they'd love to do a beer with you guys, of course. All right, well, put us in the right direction here, let's connect. And we did. I remember getting the Chris Bogus, the head brewer from Three Floyds, ended up getting his contact. We ended up talking. He was like, man, we'd love to, we'd love to too. This would be amazing, So I remember I ended up touring the facility and all that. And they were, and we're like, man, we're in. This is great. This is right up exactly. Beer is synonymous kind of with metal, right? And music for that matter. And we felt like, well, why shouldn't we have a collaboration, at this point in our careers? So that's basically how it came about. The fact that they were already doing some, and they love doing it with bands, and we're like, and then find out they all, most of them are fans of Cannibal. So it was just an amazing experience that, both companies were able to thrive off of, and to really be happy with what we did here. So now we got like a pretty good repertoire with them, and a very good relation with all of them, because of that. And we did a couple of batches. The beer did so well, the Amber Smash Face, it won awards. Then they did another batch, which they normally don't do with their bands, because obviously it's always limited, which is understandably so. So we got a little lucky that they did another batch, and so we're still rolling with it, because they rebrewed some of that for the Decibel Fest we just did in Philadelphia. And they canned it, because normally, we only had it in bottles the whole time. And then we finally just got some last month, where we got cans of the Amber Smashed Face, which was cool. So that's it's amazing that we're still with them in that sense. And then the Angry Chair thing came about. It was kind of similar. I can't remember, because I dealt with the guys there, but they never really did any collabs with any bands per se. And they're obviously a little bit of a smaller company, albeit, man, they make some amazing beer, and they're up and coming. I'm sure if you're into the beers you'd seen, you would know. But man, they're just expanding as they go here. I think they just moved into a bigger facility recently and all that. But it was a little bit more, they were a little more green to the whole collab thing, because they never did it. I was kind of, well, this is what Three Floyds did and how we're doing. Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's, so we did the Follow the Blood Stout with them. And it turned out great. I mean, man, they make some great product there, of course. And we're supposed to be doing another one with them, actually. So what the whole thing was, we were going to make two beers. We're going to make the Follow the Blood Stout, and we're going to make another one called Inhuman Harvest. We're going to make it a lager. And but they wanted to kind of mix it, not put it out at the same time. And so we're kind of in the wings, in the waiting game. I'm not sure when they want to do that, because I know the whole thing with the process of them changing facilities has kind of messed it up a little bit. So, but the artwork's ready to go. That was all ready to go. That was all talked about. So hopefully that'll end up happening sooner than later. So we got another product from Angry Chair as well. But but yeah, it was just coming, through word of mouth, through people that know, both bands, or, the band, somebody knows somebody at the brewery. Hey man, they love you guys, that you should get a hold of them and see if they want to do a beer. All right. Yeah. So that's basically how these collabs have come together, which has been really cool, man. It's cool to have, cool to crack a beer that's got your logo on it. Vince Locke's artwork, of course, helps, man. Yeah, funny you said that, because of being we were talking about the beer, 4th of July. I'm like, 4th of July, I don't drink a lot that much anymore. I mean, Guinness is my go-to. I love stout, and that's why we did the Irish kind of dry stout. But I'm like, man, I gotta chill, follow the blood Cannibal Angry Chair stout and have it on 4th of July. Come on, it's 4th of July, right? Yeah. So I haven't had one in a little while, and I cracked one out, and I'm like, man, this is good. It's good stuff, man. They did a great job. So it's always cool to sit back and drink a beer that's got your name on it, and know you worked with some killer companies that made a great product. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's very cool. Yeah, I need to get my hands on that. I've had the Amber Smash Face.
Oh, nice.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Cool. Oh, awesome.
And it was, I was at a party, and somebody brought it. They had been to Indiana, and they brought a bottle, and
cool.
So we were sharing it. Everybody's passing it around, and and it was I didn't even know about it, and then I saw it. Like I said, this was probably 7 years ago or so.
Right.
When I saw it, I'm like, where did you get this? I have to have this. This is awesome. But yeah, I need to get my hands on the Angry Chair. I got to check that out. That's cool. And it's exciting that there's a second one coming out. That's really cool.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. I got to get a hold of them and find out what's going on, because we need to get that ball rolling. I mean, it's on their end at this point, but we're just happy to be a part of it. So whenever it comes out, I guess. But yeah, they're, I don't know if you had any of the Angry Chair product at all, but it's some good stuff, man.
So
some good stuff.
A while, but
some good stuff. They make some great stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Paul, this has been an absolute honor and a pleasure chatting with you tonight. Thank you so much. Again, if everybody watching, check out the new ambiguous, as I stumble over my words now, the new album, a new band, there'll be a link here to check that out. Cool, killer stuff, and of course Cannibal Corpse. You can't go wrong there. And are you guys touring anytime soon? I forgot to ask you if you had anything coming up.
The Cannibal, we're going to Europe in August here, so we got like 2 weeks of some festivals. I think we have 2 headliners in Poland, but we're only there for 2 weeks, so it ends up being like 10 shows, because we haven't even done a proper Euro tour yet. That's to be sometime in the near future we should be doing that, but for the time being we're doing that that August run, and there's some other stuff in the pipeline that everyone will be aware of soon enough, but yeah, I mean, that is the next thing. We're only a month away. I think we leave on August 8th. The first show is August 10th.
Oh yeah, so you're coming up on it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty quick.
Will I can't even say the name. Umbilicus. Will Umbilicus be doing any live shows?
Well, that's the plan. The problem with that, and not that it's a problem, but yeah, the 3 of us, Taylor and Vern and myself, of course, are in Tampa here in Florida, and our singer is from Ottawa, Canada. So makes it a little difficult. We actually, it's funny, we've actually never played with him. We wrote those songs together. I mean, Taylor, Vern, and I, and we jammed them. We recorded them, because we didn't even have Brian in the band at the time. Actually, Taylor was really kind of our working singer for a while. We were thinking like Taylor can sing a little bit, and he was like, what, I wouldn't mind giving it a shot. We're like, hey, why not? That'd be kind of cool. It'd be like a power trio, and so he was singing a little bit there, and then we just decided, man, maybe you should stick to the guitar. Maybe we should just try to, no offense to Taylor, because I mean, and he'll probably tell you, he never really did it per se. I mean, he can do it, but he never did it. We were, maybe we should try to find a guy that can do it. You know what I'm saying? That's a singer that's been there, and he knew of Brian. So we sent Brian all the music, and Brian wrote all the lyrics and did all the arranging of the vocals over the top of the music that we already wrote,
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah. And then, so I've never even met the guy in person yet. Not Vern and I haven't, because he's in Canada. And of course the whole pandemic thing and travel restrictions, we weren't able to kind of get together at all yet. So that unfortunately is the little bit of the thorn right now. I mean, hopefully that'll all be able to be subsided, and because we want to do something now that it's getting to the point of, okay, right, the album wasn't out, we were practicing, all this kind of thing. Well, hey, now we got songs out. Once the album comes out, it's kind of like, I guess our thing is like I was talking about earlier with it, hey, if this is all for fun, we're having a great time and that's fun. But hey, you never know, right? We might put the album out. You never know when somebody offers us hey, play here, play there, let's do that. So we wouldn't mind playing some shows regardless. With any luck, we can do maybe like a record release, but we're talking that's not that far off either, at the end of September here. So the fact that, like I said, that Brian is up in Canada makes it a little more difficult, but it would be nice for him to get down here, and hopefully we could do something, at least play, maybe Florida, a couple shows or whatever, after the record's out, and then, then like take it from there. Right. And see what happens. But we definitely want to play. So it's not going to be for lack of not wanting to. We definitely want to do it. Just obviously with our, with him being up there makes things a little bit more difficult. But I think it'll all smooth out as it goes. And then of course the other thing is we're got to work around my schedule. And now that Taylor's in Deicide, and then Inhuman as well. Obviously he's a very busy guy as well. So we kind of got to work around everyone's schedule here. So things all got to fall into place in that way as well. But I'm sure they will. So
I think
we'll keep our fingers.
Yeah, it seems like Taylor and Jeremy come up with a new project every other day. So,
I mean,
which is always good Taylor, stuff. But
I know it's always amazing. But they're in like how many bands? 10, 50 bands. I mean, they're just they're workaholics. They're just constantly doing something, which is good for them. I mean, that's amazing. But right, and then of course now Taylor joining Deicide, which that kind of made it a little more like, all right, well, that's just going to be sort of the main gig right now. So but yeah, man, those guys are always doing something, so that's good.
That's right. Well, Paul, thank you again so much. This has been a pleasure. Have a great night and a great tour coming up with Cannibal Corpse in Europe. I am jealous for those Europeans that are going to see you guys live very soon. So,
I appreciate it, Victor. Thanks, man. No, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, great talking to you. I'm glad we got to do this. And sorry about my dog interruption earlier. And
no worries.
But I appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun. So
awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right.